All right. Hey, and happy Friday. Welcome, everyone. I hope everybody is doing good on this Friday. I just got to get my Friday dance on, Miguel.
There
Hey.
you go.
Ooh, it's Friday and we made it, y'all. Happy Friday. Hello and listen, happy 2023.
Mhm.
Okay. This is the first Relationship Friday of this year that we have done. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be doing another Relationship Friday. As y'all come in, let us know where you are tuning in from. Hello and welcome, everybody. We want to know where you're tuning in from. We got Becky Pop. Hey, hey. Hey, Renaya. Listen. For all my people, we got DC. Listen, let us know where y'all are tuning in from. I missed y'all. We haven't been up here. Listen, Miguel, we have fun on our
Mhm.
Relationship Fridays. So I'm excited to have you here with us so you get to see how we do and they get to see how you are. So welcome as y'all come in. Let us know where y'all are tuning in from. I'm getting excited about this conversation. We have P Town in the building. Let us know where y'all are tuning in from. Go ahead and share this. So there's a couple of things, and Miguel, bear with me. I kind of
Mhm.
sometimes I forget to do it. My team tries to tell me. Sometimes I forget, but y'all know what to do: like, share, and follow.
Mhm.
We're on Facebook, we are on LinkedIn, we are on YouTube, and we need to get our YouTube up because I think we at like a measly number. So we need to get that up. So y'all let us know where y'all are tuning in from. We got Alexis in the building. Alexis coming in from New York. Hey, we got Shantae from New York City. Welcome. Hey. We got Bridget from Maryland in the building. Hello. Welcome. Thank y'all for joining us. Share this because we're talking about all things relationship. So this is Relationship Fridays. Once a month we come on, and this is adult conversation. So I'm just gonna put it out there. Send the kids out the room. But we are talking about love, and on our Relationship Fridays we talk all things relationships. It's adult conversation, and tonight we're talking about this thing called love at first sight. So I'm Rachel with RDH Counseling and Consulting, where we help you become your healthiest self. Tonight's Relationship Friday is hosted and produced by RDH Counseling and Consulting, and we're excited to have you here. As y'all come in, let us know where you're tuning in from. We want to shout you out. As y'all can see, I have Mr. Miguel joining us. Sometimes we have a male guest panelist that comes on. So we have Miguel joining us. And so we're going to get right into it. Miguel, if you would go ahead and introduce yourself, let everybody know who you are.
Sure thing. Well, Rachel, first of all, thank you for allowing me to be on your platform. Thank you so much. My name is Miguel LeBron. I am from upstate New York. I am a personal growth strategist. What that means is that I help individuals think strategically so that they can accomplish their goals. I'm also the host of Strategy Rewind podcast, which is a podcast that focuses on the mindset and strategies needed in order to accomplish your goals. So if you're into personal growth, you're into accomplishing goals, living a better and much more fulfilled life, definitely check out my website, miguellebron.com.
Excellent. Listen, y'all heard what the man said. If you're trying to do something, Miguel is going to get you right. Check him out. You can reach him at his website at Miguel, www.miguellebron.com. We're going to
Mhm.
also have this up at the end. If you want to email him, you can do so as well. But the best way is go to the website, check
Mhm.
him out, see what services he has, what he provides. Miguel, what's the podcast? Don't you have a podcast?
I do. And the podcast is Strategy Rewind, and it's available on all streaming audio platforms. And again, it focuses on the mindset and strategies needed for in order for you to accomplish your goals. So this month, I've challenged myself to do 28 episodes in the month of February. So that's an
Ooh,
episode a day.
okay.
So definitely, there's enough content there with reference to personal growth, mindset. Why does personal growth matter? One of the recent episodes that we did that reacted fairly well was exactly what does it mean to be a strategic thinker. And so
Mm,
we talk about thinking strategically, but it almost seems like nobody really defines that. And so I bring forth a definition, and we have multiple conversations. A lot of those conversations right now are happening on the Wisdom application, which
mm.
is a social audio application that allows you to have multiple conversations with multiple individuals. And so we've been having conversations on that platform, and that kind of becomes the conversation that's been airing as a Strategy Rewind podcast this month.
Excellent, excellent. So if
Mhm.
y'all trying to get your mind right, Miguel is the man. So listen, in addition to being able to kind of get your life right with Miguel, we specifically have him on because we want to pick his brain.
Mhm.
So as a man, right, he has the male perspective. So y'all know we kind of bounce things off. So we're gonna hop right into it. Miguel, are you ready?
I think so.
All right, so let's first kind of start it off, right? We're
Mhm.
talking about this idea of love at first sight. Is that
Mhm.
even a thing? So y'all know we do polls throughout. So we're gonna start with the first poll.
Mhm.
Um, what do y'all think? Is that a real thing? I want to hear from the audience first.
Mhm.
Is love at first sight a real thing? Is it real? Have you experienced it? We want to let us know. Is it a real thing? Is that something that somebody made up? Or is that whole thing about the Cupid love
Mhm.
triangle arrow hitting you?
Mm.
Is that
Yeah,
correct?
because
Is
love
that true?
triangle, that was a whole different
Yeah.
topic. Yeah, that was another podcast.
Let me back that on up. The spear, the tip of
There
the
it is.
spear, the
There
arrow.
it is. There it
But is
is.
that a real thing? What do y'all think? Is this a real thing? So that's the first poll that I want to
Mhm.
kind of put that out there before we get into that.
Mhm.
But let's start, Miguel, by talking about love, right?
Mhm.
Because when we're saying love at first sight,
Mhm.
what even is love? Is there a different definition that you think when, as a man, what comes
Mhm.
to your mind? What is this love? What does that mean? What does that look like? What is that for you? Let's kind of start there.
Sure, sure. So first, let me start off by saying that I am not the voice of the male species. We did not have a meeting, and they did not select me as the voice of the case. So I'm only going to provide my definition, and to me, love is a bond that connects two individuals on a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual level.
Okay. So Miguel said, listen, first off, let me clarify. What I'm not is the representative
Correct,
for the male
correct.
species. However,
Mhm.
but I hear what you're saying. That's deep.
Mhm.
Miguel, what I'm hearing
Mhm.
you say is listen, when we're talking about love, we're talking about this bond, and this bond connects us spiritually, physically,
Mhm.
emotionally.
Yep, and
So if
mentally.
that is love, that's,
Mhm.
in your definition of it, is it possible to have that at first sight? Is it possible to kind of connect with somebody at
Mhm.
first sight?
Yeah, I would say so. In fact, in 2001, Gallup did a poll, and it showed that over half of Americans believe in love in first sight. Although there are those that think that there's an attraction at first sight, which is not the same as love at first sight. And to me, what happens is that when you have an immediate connection in these four levels, so physical, mental, emotional, spiritual,
Mhm.
that right there to me is that love at first sight. Of course, this would require that the individual would have some sort of criteria that they're looking for in a specific mate. Whereas, like, okay, I want somebody who is, you know, tall and beautiful and smart and intelligent and all these things. And then the first thing obviously that you're going to see is the physical. And so physically it's like, okay, boom, she or he checks off that box. But then
Mhm.
you begin to have a conversation like, oh, we connect mentally, we connect emotionally, we connect spiritually. And I think there is that moment where like, I think I'm in love. Like, I think this is the one.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay. So I'm going to pull in some of these comments. These are really
Yeah,
interesting
yeah.
comments. So the poll is out there, y'all. Is there such thing as love at first sight? Now, Miguel is getting deep. Miguel said, listen, statistics say that there's a large percentage of people
Mhm.
who feel like, yes, you can have this connection on a physical, spiritual, emotional, mental level. And then, as you kind of get deeper, right, that initial attraction, all right, you look good. And somebody said it, fascination or maybe lust at first sight, right? Yes, you chocolate, you tall,
Well, here's the thing. This is why I said that to me, love is a connection that happens between two individuals,
right?
but it's in these four dimensions, right? It's physical, it's mental, it's emotional, and spiritual. So this can't be confused with lust
Mm,
because lust is only a connection to one of these dimensions,
gotcha.
meaning you can look at someone and physically be connected to them, but you can care less about the mental, the emotional, or the spiritual,
Hmm.
or the other way around, where you could say, man, I love having conversations with this person. Meanwhile, you're in another relationship where you refuse to have conversations with your spouse. It's like you are now in a situation where you are coveting or desiring, and
Hmm.
that is the lust. That is,
Hmm.
I am attracted and connected, but specifically in one dimension.
Okay.
So there lies, I think, the difference.
Okay. All right. So let's hop in. I'm going to pull some of the
Mhm,
comments in. Again, for those of y'all who are just tuning in, welcome. Thank you for
mhm,
being here. Share this. Um, and keep up with your comments. So, love at first sight, is it a real thing? Um, Becky says yes. She sounds like she's agreeing with you that yes, there
mhm,
is this opportunity to feel that bond, to feel that connection with someone initially, like
mhm,
before you really, maybe know them for a long time, that it is possible. Now, Alexis is saying it's possible, and I love this. It's possible, but it's a choice.
mhm.
Um, and we're gonna Miguel, if it's okay, I want us to talk a little bit about
Yeah.
that. Bridget is saying, listen, fascination, right? Like, listen, I'm fascinated by the muscles, or I'm fascinated by your mind and how you think, or
Mhm,
maybe, on some of those levels, I'm
mhm,
fascinated. But love, maybe not. So
mhm,
when we're talking about love, I think you did a really good job of breaking it down for based on your perception of what love is.
mhm,
Let me hear from you all why love not, right? Like, what is love to you all? And we're going
mhm.
to kind of get there as well. Um, Myra says, lust at first sight. That's a whole real thing. But maybe not love.
Mhm,
And Roberto is saying, hey, welcome, Roberto. When y'all come in, let us know where you're tuning in from. Roberto is saying, yes, it is possible for, individuals to have that love, that deep connection at first sight, per
mhm,
se. Myra said, how can you determine all four of those dimensions at first
mhm.
sight? That would take more time, wouldn't it? So hit on it, Miguel. What?
Yeah, and so that's why I brought up that 2021 Gallup poll, which again, it's the conversation is that many individuals believe that there is a love at first sight, where you're like, this person hits so many of what I'm looking for. And so the question now becomes, well, how do you know they're hitting on all these levels? Well, the other side of that is, well, maybe there is an attraction where it's like, okay, physically they hit, but now
Mhm.
I'm going to go in and have a conversation. Oh, mentally I can have a conversation with them. I can have an intellectual conversation, because it
Yeah,
don't matter how beautiful you are, if
yeah,
you just, you got screws for brain. It's like, I just can't have a conversation with you. It's just not going to mesh. And then we also have to mesh emotionally.
Yeah.
Where are you emotionally? Because if somebody is broken emotionally, that's not your job to try to fix them. So you
Mhm.
don't want to enter into that. Obviously there you don't match emotionally, and then of course spiritually. And
Mhm.
this is the focus of the individual. Are they so materialistic
Yeah.
where it's like, man, all they want is the bag and they care nothing about legacy? so,
Mhm.
so yes, some of that is easy to determine. Again, the physical is like, that person got that, and then you get a little closer and be like, hey, how are you? And you kind of see their maneuvering. So for me personally, it was easy for me to see those boxes in my wife because we were in the same church. And so, when I met my wife, I met her in the church and we were part of the youth group, and I saw the way she moved. I saw she was arriving to all the services and she was doing all these things. And even though I saw her doing all those things, I had
Mhm.
not approached her with the intention of being more than just a person who goes to the same church.
Mhm.
And so it wasn't until we actually had a conversation where I was like, there it is. That's
Yeah.
everything. Like, she hits all those boxes.
Okay.
So the first time I had a real conversation,
Mhm.
I was convinced in my mind, in my heart, and I told her, I was like, I'm gonna marry you,
Oh,
because
snap.
she had all those boxes. And so that's what I mean by that love at first sight, where it's like those boxes. Now, some of those things have to be clear within what you're looking for.
Mhm.
And so it's like, if you aim at nothing, you will hit nothing.
Yeah.
So if the idea is, I want someone who's smart and intelligent and wise, and you begin to lay down the description. Darren Hardy talks about this in his book The Compound Effect, where he says that he wrote down a list of what he wanted in a companion.
Mhm.
And after he wrote down 40 some odd things of what he wanted in a companion, he then ended off by asking himself, am I the person that would attract someone like this?
Mm.
Right? And so now he put that on himself, where it's like, I need to become the person that when this person, I meet him, I
Yeah.
can actually connect. So what happened was that he worked on himself, met his wife, and it was instant. Well, of course, because he knew what he was looking for. It's like, I want love at first sight, but you don't even know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
How you gonna
Yeah.
have love at first sight? You don't even know what you're looking for. And so I think there lies that balance.
So you're hitting on some really good things. So I'm going to back up just a little bit. And I
Yeah.
think it was Myra who said it. She was like,
Hmm.
so, because what I'm hearing you say is there are, there's the definition of what love is, right? That bond, that connection that you're having with an individual emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically.
Hmm.
And that initially there may be an attraction, the physical, I like that, I enjoy that, and then from there taking it a little bit further to see if the person hits the other boxes. So to be fair, a conversations would need to be had, and obviously it's not going to be, we had a conversation just right then the first time I saw
Hmm.
you. So to be fair, at first sight, maybe not.
Sure.
But I'm
Hmm.
also hearing you say that, listen, when you know what it is that you are looking for and you have done the work to get yourself healthy, you will be able to easily ascertain. You like that word? You
Yeah.
will easily ascertain
Let me Google that.
if the individual you're connecting with
Right. Right.
kind of
Right.
meets these boxes.
Yeah.
Am I getting that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Certainly. Right. So the idea of, well, yes, it almost sounds like, well, that isn't love at first sight, because you saw them and then you're like, okay, let me pursue something more. It's like, well, that ain't the first time I saw them. And I always bring it as the moment of, for those who have seen the movie Avatar, I bring
Okay.
this illustration
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
where
yeah.
where she sees Jack Sully for the first time, and it's not for the first time, she's already seen him, but she sees him, his intention, she sees
Ooh.
his heart, and she looks at him and she says, I see you, Jack Sully.
Yeah,
And he's like, what do you mean? You've been seeing me this whole time. Yeah, yeah, but now I see your heart, your
yeah,
intention, your
yeah.
desire, and who you want to be.
Wait a minute. We got to put it. Hold on. We got to, because you're taking us. Okay. So the poll, what are y'all looking for in a partner, right? Because that was one of the things, and I
Mhm.
think Missy Bridges said that is a great point, be the person who you want to attract.
Hmm.
So when you all are thinking about it, right? Like, well, who is my partner? Who do I want to attract?
Hmm.
Am I that? And what is the work that I need to do? That's one of the things that we kind of work with our clients on, getting healthy enough so that you can be in a relationship and those that you attract are going to be healthy, right? So
Hmm.
that is so important. But this idea of, and I love, first off, I
Hmm.
love that movie.
Yeah.
That was dope. And
Yeah.
that part where she says, I see you. Like,
Hmm.
I see you.
Hmm.
That I see who you are. I see how you are. And so when you're looking at it from that perspective, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you what, I've actually, after I had so after I kind of saw the movie, I saw the first time I saw Avatar was in a movie theater. It was the first time it came out, and I fell asleep. But several years later, I was able to it calmly in my house, and I was able to appreciate it for what it was and for what it is. And then I was able to see part two. But the point that I'm trying to get at is that that phrase "I see you"
Yeah.
is such a powerful phrase. It seems simple, but it's such a powerful. I remember I went to an event recently where the leader who was in charge was just moving around, and he was like, you knew he was the one leading because he was juggling 1,000 things, and he was just trying to get everything right. And by the end of the event, you like, I saw him, like, he was done. And I just stood next to him and I said to him, I want you to know that I see you.
Yeah.
And there was a chuckle, and I was like, no, no, no,
Hmm.
I see you.
Yeah.
Like, what you done is
Hmm.
not been overlooked.
Hmm.
And sometimes that simple phrase of, okay, somebody is seeing the intention,
Yeah.
somebody is seeing the desire, somebody is seeing my heart.
Yeah.
And so that's, I suppose that's where it's like, oh yeah, this is the one. And yes,
Yeah.
that sometimes takes a level of number one, knowing what I'm looking for, and number two, really being observant, not just on the physical level, because physical is like, all right, great, with medical science and with all of the new nutrition things that come out. I mean, you could
Mhm.
be 70, 90 years old and look like you're 15. Great, fantastic.
Yeah.
But the reality is that that's not the average case for everyone. So it's like, okay, great if you match at the physical, but do not overlook the other parts. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to actually be in that moment. Like for me, when I was initially looking for a partner, I wanted a female that would be shorter than me. I grew up in a home where all the women were short. So to me, it's like, I actually got to be my height or shorter. Only problem is that I'm like 5'4".
Gotcha.
So I got, right.
You
And
limited.
so,
Ooh.
yeah, I'm a limited there. So what happened was that when I met my wife, she would always wear high heels. So I was literally looking up to her, not because of the high heels, because she's just taller than me. And
Gotcha.
so it's like some guys are intimidated by that. It's like, if you're intimidated by that, you may be missing out on something wonderful. Some girls are intimidated by that, and
Yeah.
if you're doing, you're being intimidated, you're gonna miss out on something beautiful. And
Yeah.
so, even though that wasn't my original desire, meaning I wanted someone who was shorter than me, the
Mhm.
fact that she was taller than me did not become a variable, because she was hitting on all these other things that were much more important. And 13 years later, here we are.
That's beautiful.
Mhm.
And there's so many pieces that you're saying, and my mind is kind of going in a lot of different directions with what you're saying, because all of this is good, right? Because
Mhm.
when you're talking about one, this idea of um seeing an individual, right? A lot of what we've done relationship lives in the past, and we've kind of talked about, this whole idea of dating is to gather data, right?
Mhm.
And so not getting stuck on this, well, he looks good, she looks good, right? But getting past that and getting to know the other person.
Mhm.
But the other piece that you talk about, and we've talked about this before, is this idea of seeing
Mhm.
really is the other person, and it takes two people, but a level of intimacy,
Mhm.
right? And we kind of, I heard a pastor break it down, so I'm not even going to try to act like
Mhm.
I came up with it,
Right, right.
right? But intimacy, into me see, and so
Mhm.
allowing the other individual to see you, like to really see you. um but in order to do that, in order to allow someone to connect with you like that, there's a level of health required there, because if you've been traumatized and you haven't healed, then it's going to be very scary for you to open up. And so being able to be connecting with individuals really does require you to be healed, do your work. So I think that was a really good point that you brought up. Um, and I was just looking in the comments. So what are y'all looking for in a partner? Y'all put that out there. That's the next poll. What are you all looking for in a partner? Because we've talked a little bit about what that, being able to identify that in a partner, but you being healthy enough. Like, would you want to date you? And if
Yeah.
the
Yeah. And and obviously we're talking about in this conversation, we're talking about in the scope of relationship. And it's like, okay, well, no one is going to shoot their shot to someone who's lower than them, right?
Mhm,
Like
mhm,
if in your mind you're like, bro, I'm a 10 at least, okay, then you're not going to shoot your shot to anything less than, unless you're settling. And some people are settling, but if
yeah,
you're not settling, you're going to shoot your shot to somebody equal or higher. In that sense, it's like, okay, if I want to attract in
yeah,
this scale of 10, then it's like,
mhm,
what do I have to, who do I have to be? And that, I think that premise, at least I've found, that is helpful not only in the idea of relationship, but in all walks of life. It's like,
yeah,
I want a promotion. What kind of person gets a promotion?
mhm,
I want to start a business. What kind of person starts a business? I want to start a new habit. What kind of person starts this particular
yeah,
habit?
yeah,
Because whatever version of me exists right now, that ain't it. I need to do something that I've not done before in
yeah,
order to accomplish what I've never accomplished before. And in relationship, it's the same thing. And I think that's why sometimes people go into a relationship with this idea of no one's going to change me.
yeah,
Fine. If no one's going to change you, that
mhm.
means you're not also going to change yourself. And if
Yeah,
you're not going to change yourself, you're going to be by yourself, because everyone may love you the way you are now, but really the idea is we need to grow, we need to elevate, we need to evolve. I was having a conversation with my wife about this not too long ago, where my wife is the only woman I've ever known. And so it's like, even though that is the case, the woman that I met 13 years ago is not the same woman that I
mhm,
live with and married today. Like,
mhm,
it's just not mentally, emotionally fit. Like,
yeah,
she's elevated in so many levels, and
mhm,
it should be the other way as well, that
yeah,
I've also grown. So it's like, even though I've been with this person for so long, oh, this version
yeah,
is something different
yeah.
compared.
And Miguel, I think sometimes couples miss that number one, it's normal and it's healthy to, like, you should not expect, and I don't want to use the word should, right?
Mhm.
But the expectation is that we are going to continue to grow, and to get stuck in a place where um you're with a partner who is not growing, um, that causes a lot of the clients and the couples that I work with. That's part of what we, not all the time, but some
Mhm.
of the
Mhm.
times, that's a part of the issue. That
Yeah.
one person in this relationship has grown, and the other, they're like, "What? I ain't changing." As you were saying, ain't nobody
Right,
changing
right.
me. I ain't changing. What we doing, right?
Yeah. I think one of the variables, and this is kind of what I talk about on the podcast and when I coach my clients, is that when we talk about values and our core values, we have the idea that our core values are what they are and they'll never change,
Mhm,
which just isn't true. Situations in life will change your values. Like, for example, when you're 19 years old, you're probably just thinking about getting a license, getting a car, and hanging out with your friends. But then when you're 22, 23, your goals and your values change.
mhm,
As you become a parent, your values change. Now hanging out isn't so important, but
yeah,
being with your kids is more important. And so when we talk about values, they consistently change. And if that is true, if values change and values actually have a part to do in our worldview, then what that means is that because we are two different people that have decided to come together, that
yeah,
means that my values may have changed, your values may have changed, but we need to communicate so that we could be on the same page of,
yeah,
okay, what's important to you, what's important to me, how does this all gel together? And I think one of the biggest issues is that, well, people just don't have that conversation, rather it be personally or
mhm,
with their companion.
mhm, mhm. And that that makes sense, right?
Mhm.
Because we have the shoulds.
Mhm.
which is these expectations that we have, and sometimes they are not realistic, or sometimes we haven't communicated that
Mm-hmm.
and gotten on the same page with our partner. Taking it to the next question, when we're talking about this idea of love, and how maybe that's expressed, right? So you gave kind of like this definition of love being that bond in those different areas for you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't speak for all men,
I
right?
can't. I can't.
But from your perspective as a male and your thoughts, how does that come across, right? A man
Mhm,
who is bonded,
mhm,
connected, emotionally, mentally,
mhm,
spiritually,
mhm.
physically, how does that come across to his partner? How do men kind of express that? How does that come across?
Sure, sure. So, several years ago, I decided to establish a goal for myself several years ago, and it was the idea that I was going to actually go to bed earlier and wake up earlier because my home when I was a kid, everyone's a night owl. So
Mhm.
we would break nights just for fun, just for the heck of it. So New Year's came around, people were like 3, 2, 1. I'm like, now we just getting started. Like this is an everyday thing. And so recently I said, okay, this is something I really need to address. And in the attempt of addressing the going to bed at a specific time and waking it up at a specific time, I did something that I had not done before when I attempted this. And it was that I had a conversation with my wife.
Okay.
And I said, I want to go to bed at 11:30 p.m. and I want to wake up at 6:30 a.m. Does that clash with your alarm? Because I don't want it to be that my alarm goes off and wakes you up if you have no intention to be up.
Mhm.
So where are you with this? And of course, she says, "Well, my alarm actually goes off a little later than 6:30, so 6:30 would have nothing to do with me. Go ahead and put your alarm at that time." And I think that's that part that is often missing. It goes back to the communication. And so and it goes to the part of empathy and actually being able to say, okay, I want to make sure that what I am doing to grow is not a hindrance. Like I don't want to grow in spite of my companion. I want to grow with her. And
Mhm.
and then the other part is also knowing their love language. And that may be words of affirmation, that may be acts of service, gifts, touching, or so you have to know that person's love language, because once you know that person's love language, then you can begin to address them not as though you want to be addressed, but
Mhm.
as though they want to be addressed. It's said that the golden rule is to treat others the way you want to be treated, but the platinum rule is treat others the way they want to be treated. And that rule applies even more so in the confines of a relationship.
Mhm. That is as dope. As dope. You hitting on a couple of different things, right?
Mhm,
I want to start with that the platinum rule. And
mhm,
I was just having that conversation with one of my clients, like that whole idea of how we do sometimes, which is
mhm,
connecting with other people, our partner. We're connecting with them. We're thinking about how they should respond and what they should or should not do based on how we are. And
mhm,
that's a trick in the game. That is how many partners feel misunderstood, unheard, unloved. So I think that's a really good point that you're bringing out, that that's important. The other thing that I'm hearing you
mhm,
say is that as a man, the way you are showing love to your partner is being considerate, is communicating, it's the empathy part, and it's being being considerate, but also I am concerned with about her. Like
mhm.
I want to make sure what I'm trying to do is not gonna, like, that compassion, that empathy, and that consideration. Do you get kudos? You get kudos.
Hey,
So
that's why I said I am not the voice of men, all right? Because I wasn't
do
had
you think
another.
men, do you think, all right, we're gonna
Mhm,
do a fake poll.
sure.
Gallup got their poll, we're gonna do an RDH
Right,
poll.
right, right.
So I'm gonna ask you, but before I
Uh-huh.
ask you, the poll is, y'all, how do you show love to your partner? So y'all heard
Mhm.
what Miguel was saying, just some of
Right.
the things and some of the ways that he shows love.
Mhm,
Um, so how do y'all show love to your partner? If you're female, we want to hear from you. If you're male, we want to hear from you. And then I want to put it out there. I'm asking y'all too, but I'm gonna start with Miguel.
uh-huh.
Is that typically the way men show express love. I'm putting you on the hot seat.
Right. Here's the when we talk about self-efficacy, the idea of self-efficacy is that the circle that I have around me will
Mhm.
actually dictate the way I see myself initially.
Yeah.
And so I think if that applies for self esteem and what we could accomplish or what we believe we can or cannot accomplish, I think that also applies in the realm of relationships. That is to say, the relationship that I have with my wife in front of my children, and even when I think they're not watching, that's going to play a massive role as
Yeah.
to their expectations of what a relationship is.
Yeah.
So if you're growing up like in my case that I grew up and when by the time I was 2 years old my mom and dad were divorced and then my mother remarried. My dad, he was in and out of jail and in and out of my life and in and out of addiction. And then my stepfather, he battled with alcoholism and sometimes he was good and sometimes he wasn't, and when he wasn't he really wasn't like
Yeah.
there was no shades of gray. It was either he's good or he's not good, and
Mhm.
and we saw all of that. And so when I grew up in that environment, and then created in me of, okay, I don't want to see this in my life. I don't want this. I don't want this. I may want this. I want. And I think we all do that naturally. So then you may have an individual that has those mindsets. As I said, I think we do have all of them naturally, but
Mhm.
then they may engage in other relationships. So now you take all of these previous taught lessons that
Yeah.
may or may not have been actual good lessons,
Mhm.
and you take it into relationship A. Relationship A has a bunch of situations that happen which you may or may not address, and then you go into relationship B, C, D, E,
Yeah.
and that's what tends to happen. And
Yeah.
individuals don't give themselves the opportunity to actually sit down with their emotions. Now we're talking from the perspective of a man, which means that societal, you don't really, well, you're a man, like suck it up, be a man, like it's
Mhm.
just you're like just go, like so then you have the societal part, and then you have the cultural part. I come from a Latin home, so Latin, Hispanic. What happens is an African American, like we all it's mixed, because what happens is, like, if you're an older brother, like, you think those things don't play a factor, but if you're the older brother and you're in that situation, like, you don't have time to be thinking about who I want to be
Yeah.
with, not with. It's like you just gotta respond to these. And if you come from a broken home, so
A
we
whole
take
lot.
all of these
Yep.
things, we take
Yep.
all these things, and then a guy finally finds somebody that he's like, man, I don't know how I got so lucky, but I
Mhm.
click on physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. The only problem is that I have yet to take time to define my values. The only problem is that I have yet to take time to address some of these things that maintained, and I just kind of drowned them out. And maybe the picture that I'm painting of men is fairly extreme. So I'll use my own experience. When I when I had my first daughter, my wife gave birth to my first daughter. I remember holding my first daughter in the middle of the night. She was crying, and I
Mhm.
was holding her and soothing her. And it was at that moment that all of these feelings that I had not addressed about my father creeped up. The
Mm.
why wasn't he there? The
Yeah.
why didn't he want to be with me? The
Mhm.
why didn't he want to be in this moment so precious?
Yeah.
Why? And all of these questions and all of these emotions stirred up.
Yeah.
Now, it took a while to be able to address and have a relationship with him, but
Mhm.
all of these things started creeping up. And what happens oftentimes is that as a man is like, man, forget that. I ain't gonna give him no attention. And it's like we begin to have that machismo and that attitude of, nope, I'm not gonna give into all of that, as opposed to saying, okay, let me work this out. There's something here I need to work out so that I can be a better husband, a better father. And I'm all about compartmentalizing, like, who you are at work, who you are at school. Like, I understand the compartmentalization part, but I also understand that one can affect the other. And when we talk about harmony in all of these areas, what happens is that we'll try to compartmentalize, but what we're actually doing is neglecting one area,
Yeah.
not realizing it's attacking another. So I know that's fairly long-winded, but when we talk about it from the
Mhm.
perspective of a man, I think there's a lot of layers that we just easily
Yeah.
overlook. And by we, I mean the male species. Is like we just overlook it because I'm a guy. I'm expected to go. I just have to keep walking, and so we do.
Yeah. I think those are really important pieces that you're bringing out, which is the cultural complexity that creates this ongoing pattern of trauma, re traumatization, but we're not going to deal with it though. And then now this individual attempts to get into a relationship. And how do they show up? How can they show up
Mhm.
in a relationship and be able to be considerate and loving and supportive and even able to connect and feel safe enough to let somebody see me?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think all of those are really good points that you're bringing out. I'm going to go to the audience and bring in some of these
Mhm.
comments. Dion said, "Hello and welcome." So welcome when y'all come in. Let us know where you are tuning in from. Share this. Share this. Dion
Mhm.
said, "Wow, that's awesome. That is an amazing way to grow." And she may also hold you accountable to help you reach your goal. So this
Mhm.
idea that you were talking about, which is sharing what you're
Yeah.
trying to do with your partner. Um, how and this is kind of off, but it's with
Yeah,
what
yeah, we in there.
yeah, how comfortable is that for people to do sometimes? And this
Yeah.
idea of sharing what you're trying to do and getting the feedback, the holding accountable part.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it's not as easy as it may seem
Because don't
because
tell me what to do.
and that's the thing, right? So it's like if I share with her my intention,
Mhm,
then she may or may not, when I'm slipping,
mhm.
tell me I'm slipping. And of course, if you're already in your mind of, man, I need to pick it up, man, I'm slipping, I need to do better. And then you hear an outside voice, because it's one thing if it's your own voice,
Yeah.
but if it's an outside voice that tells you something you've already been telling yourself, it's like, man, why are you telling me stuff? And so there is that element. But I have found in my experience that it is much more beneficial
Mhm.
that she would know and number one help me be accountable, because
Yeah.
what happens is that whenever I'm having a conversation with people in public and she's standing right there and I say, hey, here are the things that I'm working on,
Mhm.
she can vouch and say it's true. I
Mhm.
not only am seeing it, I
Yeah.
know where he's going,
Yeah.
and I know the move, like I see the play.
Mhm.
And that, I think that's the ideal. It's like, you think about a coach and a quarterback in the game of football. The quarterback is supposed to be the extension of the coach on the field.
Mhm.
And so if you as a man of the household are the quarterback, she's the coach, and she's like, she's not gonna tell me what to do. No, no, no. But she's got the plays. She
Yeah.
know where you're going.
Yeah.
And I think that would be better, because if you they what happens is that if you have a divide between the quarterback and the coach, is like the quarterback is out there talking about, I feel the wind, I need to go another direction. It's like, bro, that ain't written down nowhere. And so, I think we need that communication. We need that.
I think I love what you're saying because what it so it makes sense, right? Like you have that. Listen, you're in this marriage. You have this partner. Use like take full
Mhm,
advantage of what having this partnership is
mhm,
for, can
mhm.
be used for, to have somebody to kind of push you to get to your next level. And as Dion is saying, sometimes your wife's voice is your voice, and the voice should
Oh,
be.
it is. Yeah, I faced that before. Deanna, I know what you're talking about, man.
I think, but I think one of the other things that you said, which is key, is
Mhm,
sometimes you're already feeling some kind of way because like, man, I'm slipping. So I think for us as women, there's a role that we play in how we can support our men and hold them
Listen,
accountable.
I don't even think it's a how issue. Let me tell you, because there's been moments that I've told my wife, I'm going to do this, and I could be consistent. And I
Yeah.
know that I'm kind of like, man, I need to pick up, I need to adjust and do better. And she's told me, hey, Miguel, I just want to let you know, I think you need to catch up on this. And it's like, my face is like, why are you telling me
Yeah.
this? And so she's
Yeah.
like, sorry, I didn't mean to bother you. I was like, no, 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 it's not a bother. It's not what you're saying. It's not even how you're saying. It's just I know. And so
Mhm.
there's the level of of burden and pressure, where it's like, okay, I'm already putting pressure on me, and
Mhm.
now you're seeing what I've
Mhm.
already been feeling. It's almost like that confirmation that I need to pick up the ball. And again, I think for everyone in general, I think it's like I can deal with the voice in my mind that tells me I need to do better. But when somebody on the outside
Mhm.
says, "Hey, I see that you can do better," sometimes it don't matter what voice it is. Like it could be, it could be your favorite celebrity. It could be Michael Jordan knocking on your door telling, "Hey, you could do better." You'd be like, "Dang, Michael, you came all the way to tell me that." Like, it just doesn't matter who the source is,
Yeah.
especially if you're holding yourself accountable. Because
Mhm.
if you're not holding yourself accountable, then it's like, okay, whatever. But if you're holding yourself accountable and you know that you could do better, when that outside voice comes in, sometimes I say this for the benefit of the women who are listening, because sometimes it's like, oh, maybe I addressed them wrong. Sometimes it ain't even what you say, it ain't even how you say it. Is that we know we could do better, and all you're doing is reconfirming that we know we could do better. And so it just becomes this thing of, dang it, I really need to do better. So now the pressure just amps up. Now, some guys know how to understand, okay, she's not, and I suppose this goes back to those communication skills, right? So it's like how she communicates, hey, you're slipping on this, is
Mhm.
very important that she does it gracefully and lovingly,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
otherwise it just seems like an attack. And it's like,
Yeah.
bro, this is my goal. This ain't your goal. Why are you telling me about my goal? So there has to be that
Yeah.
balance of it as well.
Let me ask you this, and this is
Mhm.
just me digging a little bit deeper. So
Sure.
for the men who, so one, I appreciate the transparency on your
Mhm.
part, right? And so for the other men who are out here in those moments where they know they're slipping or not at the level they want, and that other person has seen that they slipping,
Yeah.
what is this in their moment as they're hearing that? What is that experience like, and what is it that has helped you not to lash out, but instead to kind of take it more as, okay, let me kind of get myself together.
Mhm.
What is that like for you in those moments, and then what's kind of helped to get you to go in a more healthy or positive direction with your reaction, response, or what you do?
So it's wonderful when somebody says, "I see you," and you're making strides to become better, because
Mhm.
then it almost validates the hard work. And I'm of the belief that some results are tangible and some are not. But when
Mhm.
someone can see those results that are not tangible, they
Mhm.
have not yet come to fruition, but they see the hard work and they say, "I see you," and that feels great. But when you understand I'm slipping, nobody else can see it, but the
Yeah.
person who's closest to you can see it. It's like, dang it, I really am slipping. And then, of course, there's this thing of, can anyone else see that I'm slipping? Right.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
and so now it becomes even more of a burden.
Gotcha.
And burden can sound negative, but I don't mean it a burden as in something that's gonna weigh you down and destroy you. I just mean it in the sense that, and understanding that I got to be the one to carry this. I got to be the one to pick this
Mhm.
up and move forward with it.
Mhm.
But what's helped me is being able to take what she is saying at face value, meaning, okay, if she is telling me that she is not attempting to be rude,
Mhm.
then I got to believe her that she is saying what she means. And
Yeah.
so I stay with that. And then I internalize, okay, I know that I'm slipping. She says I'm slipping, so obviously she confirmed it. What can I do in order to fix this?
Mhm.
And so this is the thing, is like, it's not anyone's fault. If
Yeah.
you're slipping right now in your journey, it's like, it's nobody else's fault.
Yeah.
It's no my dad and my mom and my
Yeah.
uncle and this and that. It's like, no, 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 no. There's a
Mhm.
level of responsibility that you
Yeah.
have to take and say, okay, we're 55 days in the new year. I
Mhm.
still haven't been accomplishing my goal. I still haven't been walking to be the person I want to be. That's a level of responsibility on me. What am I missing? Is it the habits? Is it the morning routine? Is it the nighttime routine? Is it that I'm distracted? Is it that I'm not really committed? Is it that there's so many variables there
Yeah.
that have zero to do with anyone else? And so for me, I had to internalize and say, okay, what is the area that I'm overlooking? That
Mhm.
maybe I'm doing some things right, but I'm not doing everything else right. And so when I came to that realization, then I was able to go back to her and say, "Hey, I
Mhm.
want you to know," which I think is the next step, right? The next step is having that conversation and say, "Hey, I want you to know that what you said did
Mhm.
not bother me. It only reconfirmed what I already knew. And here's the plan that I have in place."
Mhm.
So now it's not an attack, and you know that I know that you're not attacking me,
Mhm.
but
Uh-huh.
you know that I know what I have to do next. So now there's an appreciation there, but there's also a sense of gratitude, and
Yeah.
there's also a plan that I know exactly what I have to do next. I know exactly what the next move is, that
Yeah.
was obviously something that I wasn't paying attention to.
Yeah. And what you're describing, if men um, were able to consistently do that, I want, and I'm saying this from the perspective of, for the men listening, wanting you to understand the viewpoint of your wife, your partner, that if you were able to be secure enough in yourself, right, to get feedback and to recognize that this is not an attack. And again, this is the woman is coming in a respectful way, right? Because
Hmm.
that does make it easy to
Hmm.
receive it. But also just being secure in yourself that this is not an attack. This is not an attack on my identity. So being healthy enough to recognize that and to recognize that this is feedback, to internalize that, kind of process, do what you need to do, and then to be able to go back and have that conversation. Man, what happens there is that then allows the woman to feel more secure in her role as partner, as because a partner is someone that does hold you accountable, that
Hmm.
does bring things to your attention. And I think when you have that type of relationship, that's how you build. That's longevity, that's strength that grows. And you mentioned earlier about children
Hmm.
seeing this type of interaction role modeled. Man, you're creating ongoing wealth, and not necessarily financial, but being able to be in a household where you're seeing the mother and the father relating in a healthy way like that. Honey, we're talking about creating the
Hmm.
generational wealth of relationships.
Hmm.
Does that make sense how I'm saying it?
Yeah, yeah, certainly. Most
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think coming from I had a conversation with my oldest daughter who is she's 9 years old, she's going to be 10 soon, and we had a conversation, and in this conversation she was saying that she was surprised how many of her classmates, their mother and father aren't together.
Mm-hmm,
And in
hmm.
that conversation, I was like, okay, we're going to have to do a Google search. And so we went to Google and I did a basic search, looked at a bunch of different data right in
Yeah.
front of her. I said, let's
Mhm,
do this search. How many people have mom and dad in the household?
mhm.
And of course, I am one of those. I am one of those who grew up with mom and dad living in separate households that didn't want to see each other. They
Yeah.
were oil and water
Mhm,
from my childhood. So,
mhm.
you know, but her being able to see that, and I said, okay, now here's the numbers, and we went through that, and I said, you don't realize the blessing you have. And I
Yeah.
think oftentimes as parents, we need to make that step, which is what you're talking about, that wealth in relationship is like, let me tell you how blessed you are.
Yeah.
Not only because when I was a kid I didn't have this, but you're
Mhm.
so blessed that you're defying what the odds are and you don't even realize it right now. And of course after that I got to tell them to clean their room, but there's a level. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things that you're talking about is this idea of how we are showing love
Hmm.
as a man, um, being able to hear your wife, hear her heart, communicate with her, talk to her. Um, Earlier this morning, I was talking to my family about gaslighting, right? And so,
Hmm.
when you're thinking about going back to your wife and saying, "I heard you loud and clear. I didn't take it as an attack. Thank you.
Hmm.
I'm on it. I got the plan. I'm not slacking, right?"
Hmm.
Instead of trying to or attempting to make her feel like she's out of her lane, out of pocket, or just crazy because she's bringing things to your attention. That's love. That's
Hmm.
that choice someone mentioned. I think it was Alexis mentioned
Hmm.
earlier. And when we talk about this idea of how men are expressing love and receiving love, and also how women are expressing and receiving love. It really is women we see, and I'm gonna put your disclaimer out there.
They didn't cast locks.
Listen, they didn't cast lots in with me, but I'm a woman and I work with
Mhm,
women, and
mhm,
I hear the ongoing conversations, even
mhm.
though everybody's kind of different.
Right.
But a lot of times the way women show love is, I want to, if I see something, if I know there's a hole, I don't
Mhm,
want my man to fall down that hole,
mhm,
baby.
mhm.
I just want to tell you, the hole down there.
Right.
Possibly you might want to think differently, right? So
Mhm,
when we are expressing our love in those in different ways, and men have different ways of expressing it, women do, I think it is important for both partners to be healthy enough to receive, especially the communication, the feedback.
yeah, exactly. Several years ago, my several years ago, my mother passed away, and when my mother passed away, it was difficult. It wasn't easy losing my mother, but it was around that time that we went to, my wife and I, to a marriage retreat, and there was some things that I had not resolved yet, but I didn't take it out on her or anything of that sense. It was just, I felt like it was part of the journey. I was like, okay, she's no longer here. All of these other feelings are just part of the moment,
Mhm.
and this too shall pass. And so I just kind of, I let it be. However, we went to this marriage retreat, United Marriage Encounter, and one of the things that really impacted me was the way that we may have difficulty to put a name or a label on an emotion.
Mhm.
However, we can still say, okay, it it it's an emotion that looks dark. It's an emotion that is sweet. It's an emotion that is bitter. It's like riding a roller coaster. It's like free falling. It's like, so you can use these words that are descriptive.
Mhm.
And so, even though at the moment you may not know the term for it or whatever it may be, but you can
Mhm.
use this term that's descriptive. And that, we were so impacted by that weekend that we actually went again, and we volunteered with them several times.
Wow.
And that's something that has actually helped me. I remember one time we were having a conversation, and the conversation was one that she wanted to have, because I was going through some stuff at work, and I was going through some stuff, just me working some stuff out mentally.
Yeah.
And she was like, you seem distant. Are you okay? And I'm like, I'm okay. And then the next day she was like, you sure you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm okay. And then by the end of that second day, she was like, listen, I know something's wrong. Just tell me what it is,
Yeah.
so that I can, we could work together.
Mhm.
And I knew that these feelings that I was feeling were so raw,
Mm.
that I said, listen, if you want me to share, I will. Just know that what I'm about to say has zero to do with you,
Gotcha.
but I'm still working it out. So it may
Mhm.
not come out real clean
Yeah.
if you want me to talk to you. And she
Mm.
was like, yep, go ahead. I was like, okay,
I
here it
love it.
goes.
Yeah.
And then I just started,
Yeah.
I started going. Now, it had zero to do with her. So I wasn't blaming her. I
Yeah.
wasn't dumping everything on her. I was just expressing what I felt. And of course, she took it like, oh my goodness. And I was like, I told you,
Oh,
it's still raw. I'm trying to
yeah.
work this out. It ain't sounding pretty right now,
Yeah. Yeah.
but by the end of it, she was so graceful. She was so loving. And by the end of it, she just said, I understand, and I know we'll get through it. She didn't have
Oh,
to say anything. And I think
yeah.
oftentimes we feel like we have to present some type of solution,
Mhm.
either guy or girl. And it's like, no, just the person knowing that you're there with them on the
Yeah.
difficulty they may be going through. That sometimes is enough.
What was that like for you to be able to just get it out and not have to try to filter and things like that? What was that experience like for you?
It definitely opened up some lines of communication, at least at a level that I think we had not explored before.
Mhm.
Because I try to be very careful with the words I select when communicating, and because I don't want it to come across as though I'm attempting to put the blame on anyone, I
Mhm.
definitely want to make sure that when I speak, I have more precision, and even more so when I speak to my wife. And so in that moment, it wasn't polished, it wasn't clean. I
Mhm.
was still working it. I was fairly
Yeah.
raw, it was fairly tender.
Mhm.
I had to be specific on, I will share,
Mhm. Mhm.
but you got to know that it
Mhm.
has zero to do with you.
Yeah.
And so I think that allowed her to just set up mentally, like, okay, it has zero to do with me.
Yeah.
But for me personally, it felt as though we had hit a deeper layer in
Mhm.
communication. And I think that's that's one of the things that I've learned in marriage, where it's like the idea that I know how to communicate with my wife, period.
Yeah.
She's not the same person she was when I met her.
Mm-hmm.
And she's grown and she's matured. And so there are some things that are going to change, and she's going to grow, and she's going to have a different perspective, and different things are going to be important. And so knowing that
Yeah.
and coming from that perspective maintains communication something ever growing. And so
Mm-hmm.
to me, when I hear individuals who are in a relationship and they say we grew apart, to me is like, yeah, you grew,
Mm-hmm.
period, apart, period.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that you both grew, but you
Mm-hmm.
both grew in different
Okay.
directions.
Yeah.
And you didn't grow together, and somehow from this one garden these two fruits came out. No, you literally went different directions. Somebody went to the left and somebody went to the right. And
Mm-hmm.
that is the issue. I don't want that for my marriage. I
Yeah.
want it to be something that we can grow, and just grow at the same pace
Mhm.
together, or maybe not necessarily the same pace, but really grow together.
Yeah. Uh, Let me say this. If
Sure.
y'all have questions, now is the time you can ask Miguel any questions that you have, or if you have questions for myself. But I love this idea of being able to say. So as women, we're very intuitive, so we know something. Don't
Hmm.
keep telling
Hmm.
us ain't nothing wrong, something wrong, right? But I can also appreciate, hey, Edwina, where you're tuning
Hmm.
in from, hello and welcome. But we can also appreciate the trying to spare her, trying to protect her, like, sis, you might not want what you asking for just yet. I'm still trying to process
Hmm.
something. So there really is a balance, and that's one of the things that I work with my clients with, like this, not pressing, right? Allowing people to have their space. Let me work through this, right? So the person communicating, hey, listen, there is something going on. I just haven't figured it all the way out just
Hmm.
yet. Give me some time. But then at the same time, I love the other idea, which is being able to have that safe space to say,
Hmm.
yeah, it is something on my heart. This don't have anything to do with you. I just need to be able to say it to you. No filters,
Hmm.
no, and know that there is no judgment.
Hmm.
Like, listen, I'm about to say this. It's not gonna be sugar.
Right.
Listen, this is what it is. And just be
Right.
able to have that
Hmm.
that level of communication. I think you hit it right on the head. It really does elevate a relationship to that next level, because, and this goes back to what we talked about, that intimacy.
Hmm.
I'm being intimate. I'm giving you the raw, the real, the ugly. Sis, you about to get
Hmm.
all of this.
Hmm.
And knowing that you can, that your partner, I'll never forget. I'll use myself as an example. This was so embarrassing to me. There was this guy that I dated, and I had gotten sick, and I mean, I was throwing
Hmm.
up. It was just, and you know what he did?
Hmm.
He took a, first of, who is walking around with a bucket? He had a bucket in his truck. He was
Oh,
like, "Yeah,
wow.
go ahead, come on, clean me up." And I'm
Wow.
just, clean me up.
Yeah,
Come
yeah.
on, I'm gonna take you home. You good? Do you know what? Do you know what throw up breath smell like?
Yeah. You know what? Yes, yes, I do.
Throw up breath.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that takes a level of vulnerability. Like on the surface, it's like he was real vulnerable, yes, but that took also a level of vulnerability for you, because for some individuals, it's hard to be served. Like they're so accustomed to giving, giving, giving,
yeah,
that they have difficulty in actually allowing them to someone to serve them. And so there's a level of vulnerability on both sides when we talk about that phrase of "I see you" or that "intimacy."
yeah. That is. Listen, I'm pulling up you. That part. We have to be okay with letting people serve us,
Hmm.
letting people help us,
Hmm.
support us. I'm just pulling up the comments. If y'all
Yeah.
have any questions, now's the time to ask. Mary Lou, welcome. She says it's also asking for the right time to say it.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
so when we're talking about these conversations, like, all right, is this a good time?
Right, yeah, timing is everything. Like, if we're at the dinner table, listen, this ain't dinner table talk. I think you gotta have that safe space, which for us it's our bedroom. We have a fairly large master bedroom, and so it's like, okay, we got some space here that even if you don't like what I'm saying, we just go to the closet or so.
Over
So, yeah.
Yes, yes. Selena is so funny. Hello and welcome, Selena. Now, that's a good man to pull out a bucket.
That's a guy right there. That guy right there, one of the Avengers.
Oh my goodness. This has been really good conversation. If y'all have questions, go ahead and ask. Our guest is Miguel LeBron, and we have been talking about this idea of love at first sight.
Mhm,
But we're really talking about is love. Like, what
mhm.
is that? How does that show up for men? Well, more specifically for Miguel, because he is not the representative for all
I
men.
is not. I is.
Um,
And I think a good point to bring out here is the issue that the detail that you may have love at first sight, or an affinity or an attraction at first sight. There's still there's a maturation process, and I think that it's like, okay, well, this is the one. Okay, so I saw my wife, I was like, yep, she hits all these boxes, I'm gonna marry her. Yep. So we were 1 year friends, we were 1 year boyfriend and girlfriend, we were 1 year engaged, and then we got married, and we've been married for 13 years. Throughout those 16 years and all the process, there's still a maturation process of getting to know each other, of getting to grow together and mature that love and grow that love. Like,
yeah.
none of that is overnight. And I think what happens is that oftentimes we think it's going to be, oh, well, if it's like, if it was first love at first sight, then it's going to be easy.
Mhm.
No, 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 it's not going to be easy. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy. That means, the level of providence that you allow in that to work is like, okay, somehow I have found grace that I have been able to decipher this is the one.
Yeah.
Great. That don't mean you don't got to work at it. You still got to work at it. And even more so, if you're so convinced that this is the one,
Mhm.
then you really got to work at it. It's not less work.
Gotcha. And that's a good point. That's a good point. And I think sometimes and that's why I forget who said it earlier, but that infatuation at first sight,
Mhm.
like, sis, don't get stuck
Yeah.
on, on what this looks like, because over time that's going to change. And if that was what you were basing things on, you will have a problem.
Mhm.
Selena said, I think men are visual. I don't think it's love at first sight. It's the physical attraction, but it's deeper within loving a person inside. Yeah, Selena. Miguel, what are your thoughts on that? Miguel kind of hit on that earlier.
Um Okay, so the statement of I think men are visual is a general statement of the species of men. And so in this case, I almost have to come out under defense because, most often I see women that when they're going to get an engagement ring, they're the ones who want the big rock and all these things. So it's
Mm,
like, okay, who really is the visual? Because for me, for me, and for most guys that I know and I converse with, is like, we could have just gone to downtown and signed a piece of paper and gone on our way. Like, it's the female who tends to want this big luxurious wedding and all
mm,
these bells and whistles. So you say, okay, well, men are more visual. Okay, that's been your experience. Very well then. But I've seen I've seen a little otherwise. And I think, initially there's always going to be the physical attraction in general. There's always going to be the physical part. Um,
because if your wife,
mhm.
because even for you, how you
Mhm.
kind of described it, like, listen, I need her to be no shorter. I was about to say taller. I
Yeah.
need her to be shorter.
Right,
So
right, right.
okay.
And so Neil Tyson Degrassi, he talks a little bit about this, where he was asked the question with reference to his wife. He's been married for over 30 years. And he was asked the question, how do you know that you didn't make a mistake with your wife? Now, he's
Mm,
been married for 30 some odd years, but they asked him, how do you know you didn't make a mistake? And he says, because it's all a formula. I knew exactly what I was looking for and the equation within that formula. And he says, and whenever I find myself in a moment where I think anyone fits that equation, there's always something that they don't check off, meaning
Mm,
okay, physically, wow, she's beautiful, okay, fine, fantastic, she's beautiful, but then you start talking like, ugh, we don't connect mentally,
yes,
intellectually, or maybe we do connect intellectually, but spiritually, like, we just don't align, we're not equally yoked. And so it's like you have to have those boxes that
gotcha.
you can always say, this is the reason why, like, like you said, that physical may or may not be there 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 years from now, but that person will be. And so there's deeper things to look at.
Gotcha. Um, I'm just pulling up some of the comments.
Yeah.
Selena, I agree
I
with you
think
though. Men are they are visual because if
sure.
a woman is not attractive to them in some way or shape or form, they're not even going to approach them
Now
to
that goes
have
both
the
ways
conversation.
though. That goes both ways. So
Listen,
so
I agree.
we all visual.
Yes, yes, we are. Yes, we are.
And like I
Uh,
said previously, nobody's gonna shoot down. Like if
yeah,
you think you're a 10, or
yeah,
you're like, I'm not gonna shoot for something less. I'm shooting for someone that's on my level or
yeah,
higher.
yeah,
And so in that sense, it goes back to what we said about who do you want to attract? Because if
yeah.
you want to attract someone that you think is in a higher level or source some sort, then you need to elevate as well.
True.
Mhm.
Marilou said men like weddings too.
Hey, I am not the voice of the male species, but the men I've spoken to.
They like, listen, just sign the paper.
Yeah, let's just go to downtown.
Alexis said, not every man is attracted to the same thing. I think that's
Correct.
a good point.
Yep. Yep.
That's a good
Correct.
point. So this has been another delicious, exciting Relationship Friday. Thank you so much, Miguel, for joining us. For those of y'all who tune in, thank you for taking your time and being here with us and making the conversation what it was. Y'all always are the bomb.com. Miguel is, I'm going to put his information back out here for you all to see, to be able to connect with him. Check him out. Go to his website. He has a blog, so check that out. Make sure that you all are following us. Listen, I'm on YouTube, and I'd like you to help me get my subscribe. So y'all go to the YouTube. Y'all are doing a wonderful job on Facebook. Y'all liked it. You follow us up there. Now that we have the YouTube, we want to build that up too. So do us a favor. Go there. Check Miguel out as well. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube. Oh, and Instagram. We're on Instagram also. RDHcounseling.com. So follow us, do whatever you do on Instagram, on YouTube. Follow us. Is that what, am I saying that right, Miguel? Follow on
Yeah,
you.
so if you have a Facebook page, you want people to like the page and then they can review it as well. And
Yes.
then if you're on Instagram, then you want a follow. And then if you're on YouTube, you want them to subscribe.
There you go. Boom. Y'all heard what he said. Do
Yeah,
it.
just do it. Just do it.
Thank y'all so much. We are going to Miguel's website is here. So check him out. What do we have going on? What do we have going on? So we have our grief group is going to be starting soon for those of y'all who are looking for support with that. We also have our men's support group that's going to be starting back up in a couple of weeks. So what we want y'all to do is you can go to our website, which is www.rdhcounseling.com. You can also email us at info@rdh.com. And we want to connect with you. Just put in your email, hey, I want whatever group it is that you want. I am really, really excited. Two new things that we got going on. Oh, y'all, I forgot. Listen, I got a book. Get the book. We got a book. Get the book. We got the self-care course. But I'm really excited about this book. It's called Self-Care.
When is the book
And
coming out?
it's already out.
Oh, it's already
It's
out.
already out. It
What's
is
the title
our
of the book?
it is called Self-Care,
Hmm.
Reconnecting with God. And when
Mm.
you talk about and think about your spiritual health, that's a part of self-care. We are going to be Miguel, this is so terrible.
What happened? How was your journey
That
writing the book?
it was it was good. It
Hmm.
was good, but it was like, Lord Jesus, is it finished yet? Uh,
Okay.
yes. So with this book, what I most enjoy about it is that people can connect with God in a
Hmm.
realistic, authentic way. And so we're going to be having our group in which we're using the book Self Care,
Mm. So
connecting
is
with.
it like a workbook or stories and anecdotes from your journey?
It is a guided devotional. So you'll have
Okay.
scriptures in there. You kind of read it, process it. As a therapist, y'all know I'm always processing. So I'm going to help you be able to connect and use your spirituality and your relationship with God to help you on your mental health
Hmm.
journey, showing you how to connect the two. So that group is going to be starting. So if you're interested in that group, email us about that. I'm really excited about that group. That's going to be dope. So y'all email us about that. We'll let you know about that. It has been another. Any last words that you want to say, Miguel?
Yeah. So when you head over to miguellebron.com, specifically if you hit the coaching section, right now we've got an event that's taking place on March 4th. There's less than 20 spots available. It's a free coaching course where we'll be talking about values and how that relates to success and actually accomplishing your goals. So statistically, people by March drop their goals.
And do.
So, in order to combat that, we've gone ahead and set up a coaching session, which will take place March 4th. It's free. So, just sign up by simply going to miguellebron.com/coaching. That's miguellebron.com/coaching.
Excelente,
Mm-hmm.
excelente. So y'all check them out. Miss Bridget said, thank you for another interesting conversation. We got the clapping hands. Thank y'all for joining us. Y'all take care. We will be back here next month for another Relationship Friday. So we look forward to connecting with you all. Y'all take care. God bless and take care of you. All right, y'all take care. I normally have my little, let me get my music. They know how we
Yeah.
do. I got to have the going out music.
Yeah.
Definitely got to have. Ooh, I thought I did. Thought I was. Ooh, it don't want to play, Miguel.
Oh, no. Oh, there you go.
Oh, no, that is not it.
That
It's
ain't it.
asleep.
That...
Hey, that other one was going to have us going to sleep. All right, y'all have a good night. And y'all take care. Thank you so much, Miguel.